Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of NUS, I would like to thank you for joining us at today's NUS Greater Good Series event, Defining Your Entrepreneurial Age, a journey in excellence, competitiveness, and creativity. Today's NUS Greater Good Series has been brought to you by the NUS Development Office, the series which has been made possible by the generous support of Newsman Realty Private Limited, aims to raise awareness of philanthropy and its impact on society with a focus on Asia. We aim to achieve this through outreach activities such as talks, conferences and forums by eminent leaders, education and research to promote development service excellence in NUS, and program initiatives to advance the philanthropic interests to NUS. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Andre Wan, Research Director from the Office of the Deputy President, Research and Technology at the National University of Singapore. Dr. Wan received his degree in medicine as well as his master's in public health from NUS. He has spent most of his career in public policy and administration roles. Before joining NUS, he's held appointments at the Ministry of Health as well as the Biomedical Research Council at the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, or ASTAR. In his current position, he is responsible for promoting NUS research capabilities to government agencies as well as helping our researchers to respond to new funding opportunities. Please join me to welcome Dr. Wan.
Thank you, Rosemary, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure and privilege for me to introduce our speaker for this session. He's Professor Daniel Zajfman, the president of the prestigious Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. Professor Zajfman was born in Belgium and moved to Israel as a young man, where he pursued his Bachelor of Science in Physics and his PhD in Atomic Physics at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. He then did a postdoc training at the Argonne National Laboratories in the United States and came back to Israel in 1991, when he joined the Weizmann Institute as a senior scientist in its Department of Particle Physics. He rose steadily through the ranks, becoming associate professor in 1997, full professor in 2003, and was elected president of the institute in 2006. He has strong ties with the Max Planck Institute of Nuclear Physics in Heidelberg, Germany, where he's been external member since 2001 and was made its director in 2005. He also serves on the board of directors of Yeda Research and Development Company, which is the commercialization arm of the Weizmann, and has also previously been consultant to Elsint, which was a technology firm that provided medical imaging solutions. We are delighted to have Professor Zajfman with us today to share with us his experience and insights in how Weizmann has created an environment that fosters excellence, competitiveness, and creativity, and how the Institute has leveraged on its strengths in research, innovation, and commercialization to develop and maintain a competitive edge in the global environment. Professor Zajfman.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this series of lecture. And thank you very much for coming here. And what I'd like to do is actually not talking about the Weizmann Institute of Science. I've decided not to give you an insight of what this institute is all about. And if you want, we can discuss it later. I'll just give you a short background, but rather to give you my own experience from my own perspective of how to drive a group of people. And in this case, of course, my experience is only related to science. And education, I have to admit that I'm very much involved in scientific education at the level of high school as well. So I'd like to share my views of, how do you take groups of people and you try to promote them and to push them and to really create, I would say, a landscape so that these people, who are all outstanding people by themselves, can really develop and grow and be creative and innovative and feel that this is really what they need to do on a single-day basis. As an introduction, I'll say that I'm a scientist, and so what I know mostly is science. But being the president of the Institute for 6 years, I've learned a few points that I like to share with you. The Institute is a scientific research institute with a graduate school, about 1,000 graduate students, 300 postdocs, 250 research groups, doing anything from string theory, pure mathematics, computer science, physics, chemistry, biochemistry, biology, and so forth. No engineering school, no law school, no business school, no geography, no political school. So basic science, really. And I would say that the focus of what we're doing is driven by the people, not by the topics. I'll say that from the very beginning, we believe that major discoveries in science are never made in the laboratory. They're always made in the brain of the scientist. And this is a very important statement, as you'll see, because that statement implies that it doesn't matter how much money you're going to invest in having amazing labs with the most powerful instrumentations you can dream of. What matters is who is the man or the woman who is behind this instrumentation. And all scientists who were here, and I know there are few here, know very well that in their own lab, the result they obtain is because they could watch it. And the major discoveries are not made because you do something different than anybody else, it's just because you see something different than anybody else. And seeing is in your own mind. Results are produced by machines, discoveries are made by people. And so we are a people-driven institution. And we hire scientists, not because of what they do, but because of who they are. We do not support science, we support scientists. We go after outstanding individuals, bright mind, curious, passionate about what they want to do, not because it is cancer research, diabetes, energy research, food security, whatever you want, everything is fine. We don't have an agenda, except one, which is trying to find these individuals and support them. And of course, one can ask, so how do you recognize these people and where they come from and so forth, and maybe I'll say a few words about this actually. So that's my introduction to the Weizmann Institute of Science. I see that place as a platform for innovation. And the first thing to learn when you have a platform for innovation is, the first thing you learn is the last thing you have to do, which is interfere with the work of the people. This has to be a free place where people can follow their passion and imagination. And very often I say that being the president of the Weizmann Institute of Science is like being the director of a cemetery. There are many people under you, but nobody is listening. Now, excellence by itself, as I said, is not a matter of what you're doing. There are maybe excellent topics, and we can all discuss what is important, as I said, but this is a matter of taste most of the time. Excellence is in yourself. It is something that you believe in it, and it's your way of life. It's a lifestyle. And frankly speaking, it really doesn't matter what you do. And you can recognize the same features in every single individual who are following this course of action of excellence. And it doesn't matter if it's science or anything else. But again, my experience has been in science, so maybe it's a little more restrictive. Being in Singapore, I couldn't say anything. I had to go starting from Singapore. And we in the West know that when you look at excellent company and you ask people in Europe, in the United States, what is a very good company in your eyes, they all say Singapore Airlines. By the way, interestingly, most of the people who say that have never flew with Singapore Airlines. But it's a very important statement, because the first thing you recognize about excellence, it's a brand name. Think about that. People say Singapore Airlines is an amazing airline. Have you flew with Singapore? No. How do you know? I heard about it. Well, that's a very important point, because branding, we're all in the world of business trying to brand something. If you can brand your place as someone who knows what you're doing, without even knowing how you do it, but they know it's excellent, you won the jackpot. And to get there is really something which is quite unique. But that's how Singapore Airlines succeed somehow to brand itself. And by the way, I myself never flew with Singapore Airlines. But I know it's an excellent company. And if you look really on the web, you find, really best of, best of, best of. And then somewhere many years ago, I found a piece of paper which was written by, I think, the people who set up Singapore Airlines. It's a 4-page paper. They describe their own philosophy, how they see an airline should behave and how it should work. And it's a very, very interesting piece of paper that I recommend you. You're living in Singapore. Maybe this is something you have to learn when you go to school. I have no idea. But for me, it was very revealing. It was a very important piece. And there are a few key points there which are very important. The first one is that excellence is not something which is static. It's a dynamic phenomenon. It's not a point that you reach. Okay? And I would say the example you can see of in this industry is, for example, Singapore Airlines being the first to introduce videos on the seats. Today it's everywhere. And you clearly see in that statement that they knew they were the first one to have videos on the seats, but they also knew that once they have it, it will be the standard of the industry. And that's a very important statement. They have this idea that whatever they do, once it's done, it's the past. And it's finished. Okay? They don't care about it anymore. And they realize that if you want to be excellent, you have to move it forward and never rest on whatever gain you have made. So that's the first thing they say. The second thing they say, and that's connected to what I said, is because even the high standards for the service provider soon become the minimal standard for the customer. So if you try to reach a new height, you have to realize immediately that this will become the standard for everyone else. People will expect you to be there, okay? And you have to agree with that this is going to be your new basis, even for your own company. Whatever you reach, you should never allow yourself to go down again, because people expect you to go even higher. This system of expectation is a very important one, because these expectations drives the company, whatever you have, ensemble, group of people, to the next point. So expectations are clearly an important tool to push upward. And clearly, this is why excellence is not a goal, but a journey. If you believe that you have to be excellent and that's finished, then you're in the wrong position. This is something that goes on and on and on. It will never finish. Most amazing is that Singapore is also a very profitable airline. So excellence can also, we can also make money out of excellence. You don't need to have, cheap stuff or expensive stuff. You need to have excellence, and then you can make profitable business. So this is, of course, an example you know better than I do. But I often use it because I think it is a very basic example of how one needs to behave if one wants to move forward. Now, there's another example of excellence. Think about what happened a few months ago at the Olympic Games. We look at all these sport people, and you should ask yourself, so what is really driving these people to run faster and faster every single year? I mean, you have a bunch of people trying to beat records and trying to beat each other and trying to move as fast as possible. So this is a graph I thought would be interesting to you to look at. This is a time from the 100-meter sprint, world record since 1880 up to 2012, and you can clearly see that something is happening here. You really wonder how the human machines could really break the records in such a short time. But you can see we've been a long way, and it's a journey. It's not a destination, and this is, of course, not the end point. Now, the advantage of sport is that excellence can be measured. This is a typical example where you can say, this is the best. This is gold medal. He's the first. There's a scale. There are numbers. In most of the sport, some of the sports at the Olympic Games are more difficult to make a judgment about. Look at artistic dancing in water. I'm not sure exactly how to look at this, and I don't know how this is being judged. But in most sports, one can really make a scale, and there's no doubt about who is excellent. It's the winner. Maybe the second or the third, because these are medals, but that's it. The problem we have is that in most things we do in life, there's not such a scale. This is a very easy way to recognize excellence. But still we can analyze what is really driving this. And I'll say from the very beginning, and I know it's not very nice to say, but I have to say it. What drives people to be excellent often is ego. Now we can try to hide it, or we can try not to agree with it. Maybe we don't like it. But you know what? It comes with the territory. And my experience in science, by the way, has been that if you want outstanding individuals, they'll have usually a big ego. And you have to deal with it. And it comes with it. And I think it's fine. And you cannot expect people to do extraordinary things in life if they don't think by themselves they're extraordinary people. It just comes with it. Now, in many places, people don't like to have that. They think it destroys the structure or the culture of the place. I disagree. I think it can be handled. And one of the major things I have to do on a single-day basis is to handle ego of others, and including mine, by the way, which is even more complicated. And so if you look at sport people and you try, in many places to look at it, they just want to be hero. They want to be the first one because they want to be the podium and they want to be seen by the camera and recognized by the world. It is something which is a driving force, and we have to accept it. And if we don't want to accept it, you're not going to be able to group the people and have that with you. It's not easy to handle, but nobody says that excellence is an easy path. There are, of course, additional things which I will talk about in a minute that drives excellence. There are two ways to drive excellence, and you need both of them. One of them is what I call the external drive. What can the system do so that the people you have in your own business, company, institute, airlines, hotel, would be excellent. And these are drives that the company itself, from the outside, from the top, I would say, from the leadership, has to provide. And these could be teachers, the right leaders. Parents are very important. Environment is critical, by the way. If you don't have the right environment, it's not going to come up. Aesthetics, beautiful things are important if you want to drive excellence. Your colleagues, role models, competition, money, of course, prize. Let's talk about it. how you teach, what's the material that is being presented, and so forth. These are all external drive. And then, of course, as I said, there are internal drive in every one of us, like ego. Frustration is a very important drive toward excellence. You should never forget that when people get frustrated and not getting what they want, that's a good sign. Okay, that's where you can actually use this in a way, if you do it in a wise way, so that they will actually try it again, because they failed most of the time, and then they get frustrated. But if you can use this frustration, you can push it to the next. Curiosity is a very, in my opinion, important point. It's very hard to be excellent if you're not curious, because curiosity is really what pushes you to explore new worlds, to go in places that are dangerous, I would say, in terms of, at least of your intellect, and to take risk. Passion, no way to be excellent if you're not passionate about it, because you're going to fail most of the time, and the only way for yourself to succeed is to be passionate about what you want to achieve. Having a sense of purpose, feeling master in something, mastery, and critically, independence. Outstanding individuals usually do not agree to have any bosses. Okay, these people believe they are their own bosses. And you have to provide it. So even in an environment where there's a structure, one needs to provide a feeling where outstanding individuals are their own bosses. So let me say a few words about how I see. Thank you. I'm slowly losing my voice. So let me tell you what I've learned personally about leadership-driven excellence. The first thing I've learned, which is very simple, is if you want to have people in your environment to be driven by excellence, you yourself as the leader have to have very good memory. And the reason is because people want you to remember them. Think about the people working in your company, in your institute with you. If you don't remember them, and if you don't know what they're doing, these people will not feel recognized. They will not be driven by the system to really get to do a better job, let's call it. So having a good memory and knowing what people are doing in your environment is a critical step by which people believe they're being recognized by you for what they're doing. If that doesn't exist, and you do not recognize these people in many levels, then they'll feel that they're not part of the environment, they're not part of the system, and they will not contribute to it. And so that's a very important point, and I've learned that what I need to do personally to drive excellence is really to remember what every single scientist is doing on campus. And we have about 250 scientists, and I tell you very frankly, I know more or less what every one of them is doing. And I think they appreciate it. They appreciate that I know what they do when I go to their lab, and I know what it is, more or less. I don't know the details, and but they want me to know what they're doing, and they are happy when I know it. It has no value whatsoever, for it. But in terms of relationship, if the leadership knows what the people are doing, people feel, recognized. And so good memory is critical if you want to have excellence in your business. The second thing, which is related, is genuine interest in people. Excellence is driven by people. It's not about what you're doing. It's not because you're producing an iPhone 5, which seems to be a very excellent device, that you're excellent. That has nothing to do with excellence. It's a good product for the next year, but as you know immediately, a year later on, it's the bad product, which is already off the shelf. So it is not about what you're producing. It's really the interest you have in the people. And if you care about them, and you really care about them, or I would even say if you love them, then they'll reward to you, and they will work for you, which means will work for your company. And you can actually grow this culture from the very bottom. So genuine interest in people is a very critical point in driving excellence from the leadership. Integrity, of course. People look at you as a role model, and for many different things, but one thing you cannot afford is to lose your integrity. And I just want to remind everyone here that you can lose your integrity only once. There's no two chances to do that. And so integrity in a business like this, especially in a science institution, is a very important point. If you promise something, you have to deliver. And if you don't want to deliver, just don't promise. I mean, keep your mouth shut. Don't say too many things. Silence is gold in that point of view, and integrity really relates of what you're making out of yourself. So that's a third point. Ability to communicate is an important point. The people working with you will need to know what you mean, or what the ecosystem means for them, or what you want them to do. And the only way you can convince them that they should work for your institution is if you're able to communicate your vision. It's not enough to be able to write it. You have to be able to speak about it and to describe it in good terms. So leadership that cannot communicate their vision will not create, with the people working for it, the right type of, I would say, reaction. And so ability to communicate is critical. Decisiveness. One of the things I've seen too many times is that leadership has not enough possibilities to make decisions. If I go back to the world of universities, one of the things I've observed is the leadership of universities don't have enough freedom to make decisions. There's too much influence from the external world in the leadership of universities that allows them to make real decisions about what really needs to be done. And of course, there are different systems. Some of the systems are driven by politics, some are driven by economics, some are driven by many different aspects. But all these aspects, while they are maybe very important, usually tie down the hands of the people at the leadership in order to make their own decision. You need to be able to have a system, a structure, I would say even a corporate structure or governance structure that allows the leadership of university or research center, that's my experience, to be able to make decisions by themselves, not asking the whole world if the decisions are correct. This is your decisions, and as any other decisions, they might be wrong, which is fine. The only thing you'll request is that most of your decisions be right, not all of them, okay? And that's a very important statement, and you have to be behind that. The last thing, of course, is genuine enthusiasm. There's no way the place you're working at is going to be moving forward and willing to really do something outstanding if you yourself, as the leader of that place, has no enthusiasm about the goal of this institute and you cannot communicate it. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, the whole company will feel it and it's going to go down. So these are what I call leadership-driven excellence. And one thing I've been looking into is the issues, which again come from above, is the issues of bonuses. We live in a world where companies love to give bonuses to people, and they try to reward their excellence by providing them an additional amount of money because they've been very good at what they're doing. And this is today a culture that I think started in the United States and probably all over the world. And so I've been looking into this business, trying to see are we missing something, because in research institutions there are basically no bonuses. Scientists don't get any money if they produce an extremely good papers. In some institutions there's a pay raise, but that has no bonuses. We have no bonus system in research institutions, academic ones. So are we missing something? I mean, is that something that really drives excellence? And you can go into the literatures and read a lot of, I would say, research that has been done on this. And I would say most of the research was done by people at Harvard who really went into the details of trying to understand where are bonuses making a difference. And they've been looking at this for more than 20 years, analyzing different industries in the world and different people at different levels to try to understand, is that really driving to excellence? Okay? And remember that the meaning of excellence is not just a number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Okay? It's not how much money you do. It might be much more complex. Okay? Of course, it could be that in sport that's the right way, but see what the results are. And the results are the following. If you have people who are low-skilled, that is working doing mechanical work, something which are very focused and very well defined and can be measured. Something where the output of the work is very clear, and if you do more of it, then it's very good. In fact, bonuses are helping. So everything that can be measured by a number and you provide money for it, the more they do, the more you pay, will probably provide these people a good incentive to go to even higher and better and faster and whatever you want. So as long as you can measure clearly what the outcome of the work is, bonuses have an impact. However, if you take people whose output is purely intellectual, I call skilled workers, and you provide them bonus, you have a very inefficient system. Because these people, for several reasons. The first one is there's no single measure of what excellence is in this case. Take scientists. I mean, you produce 2 papers in Nature, that doesn't really mean they're really important, as you know. They can be lucky, and that can be just now, and the value of it will not be known right now. They'll be known in 10, 20, sometimes 30 years from now. So how do you measure this? And in fact, there's even an opposite sign, that the more you pay these people on bonuses, so not the more the salary is, but in terms of bonuses, the less they'll be willing to really improve their intellectual output. And the reason is because when you start driving the system by a single number, then you lose the complexity of the system. In science, one of the most beautiful things we have is that we're working in a very complex environment toward very complex achievements that many of them we don't really know we achieve at a given time. And it takes many, many years to see that this really was important. And if you can reward it according to specific numbers, you're going to drive the whole system toward a very short time output, which is what we need today. But you're not going to be able to have people who will work for the vision of tomorrow, because they will be driven by the result of today. And that's a bad idea in science, and that's a bad idea, by the way, I believe, in many other topics we need to deal with. And so bonuses, even though are very good for low-skilled worker or things that can be measured, it's very bad when you expect people to provide intellectual output that cannot be really measured by a spreadsheet or an Excel table. So that's what it is, and that's why I'm not a big supporter of rewarding excellence by bonuses. Now, if we move to the other side, so that's that's how you drive your system. If you work in that place and you try for yourself and you try to look for people who are excellent by themselves, because as I said at the very beginning, excellence is lifestyle, then one need to look at internal drive. And I would say there are three important points. The first one is autonomy. It's the desire to be self-direct. Outstanding individuals don't want to have anybody on their head. When we hire top scientists at the Weizmann Institute and we really believe they're top scientists, then nobody else should tell them what to do. I mean, if they're really the best in the world, then who else are going to drive them? Who else is going to say, hey, you should go left or right or do this? So you have to provide, and you have to provide that independency, but these people really require it. They're not going to excel if you don't provide some kind of an environment where they can have their own business running and feel they are, I would say, self-directed. Okay? And that's a very important, critical point. Independence is critical for driving innovation. People will not create new ideas if they don't feel that it comes from themselves. There's no way for the industry to push people and to put pressure on them to innovate. I've been visiting major big pharma companies where major troubles these few years to produce new molecules for providing new drugs. I tell you something, if I was working in such a big pharma companies and my salary would depend on providing new molecules for providing new drugs, you know what, I'll discover them. No problems, because I want a salary at the end of the day. The value of these molecules could be zero, but I'll still produce them. Okay? But if I'm given the freedom to think and given the time to achieve and confidence, because I have been recognized as an outstanding scientist, I'll deliver at a different point something that maybe you don't expect, but will be very valuable. And so independency is a critical point that we need to provide to these people if you want them to innovate. There's no system I know that can innovate if there's too much structure and certainly too much programmation behind it. It doesn't work. Second thing is mastery, the desire to be better at doing something. I don't know if you know these people who work at a certain place and they're very bored about what they do and not very good at what they do, but when they go back home, they have a little hobby, collecting stamps, let's say, or anything else. And they do that, at an amazing level. They may be master in the world in collecting stamps, and they know something that nobody knows. They're excellent at what they do at home. But at work, they are just very bad. And I think so you see these people can be excellent. It's not that they're not. It's just that they don't master what they're trying to do. And that simply means that these people are working in the wrong place. And so it's very important to provide the right place for the people who can be driven by excellence. That's the state of mastery, and I believe this is why people have a hobby. That's somewhere they can excel. That's somewhere they find themselves, they find fully themselves into what they're doing. And the last thing, of course, is a sense of purpose. The desire to make a contribution. This is something we tend to forget, and I'd like to say a few words about it. If you look, for example, at Wikipedia, Wikipedia is a very strange thing that if I had to sell it to you and to convince you that we are going to build Wikipedia, you're going to tell me it's never going to work. Here's Wikipedia. We're going to allow everyone in this world to write entries in an encyclopedia which is completely open and everyone can write anything they want. So we all are going to do that, and it's going to be crap because we believe, there's no way this will be valuable. But for some reasons, when you look at Wikipedia, and I've looked into the details, there's a huge amount of value there, very positive values. And all these people do that for free without even knowing who they are. Why are people doing that? Why are there millions of entries in 70 different languages across so many different cultures where people are willing to provide knowledge to the world for free and we don't even recognize them? I mean, what drives these people to do that? And as you know, this is very dynamic. It changes all the time, and I don't know if you've seen how fast it changes. You know, it's amazing to see how well these entries are corrected. I'm not saying they're all right, but you know what? It's probably not more wrong than what used to be the Encyclopedia Britannica, and probably more entries, and certainly changes very fast. What is the forces that brings these people or push these people to do that, and continue to do it for free? And I think what is driving this is the sense of purpose. People love to be useful at something. And if you can give them the opportunity to be useful at something, they'll just grasp it. They'll just take it, and they'll just go into it. And it doesn't matter how much you pay them. It's going to be for free. So if you provide a platform where people have a sense of purpose, and you allow their energy to go in the right direction, it's amazing what you can do. Statistics of vandalism on Wikipedia is 0.06% of the pages. 0.06% of the pages. It's nothing. I mean, it's so easy. Go into one of these Wikipedia entries and you can cannibalize it easily. Nobody does it. Why? And I think, in this wisdom of the crowd, there's a huge amount of happiness for people to provide for the society something which is valuable. And we usually forget about setting up, I would say, a platform where people can do that. And I think it's very important to provide this. So building a culture of excellence always started from people. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do. The first thing you need to do is to hire the right people. And then the second thing you need to do is to provide them, on one hand, independence, the second hand, environment, which is the correct one. Environment cannot be, a good, if you have outstanding people, you need outstanding environment. It feeds itself. And from there, on each side, you get creativity and commitment, because the only way to get creativity is from independence, and the only way to get commitment is by providing a good environment, and that leads to excellence. So it's a very simple scheme, which of course has a lot of complexity in it, but if you think about it, and you're pure about it, and you really go along these lines all the time, you'll get there, and it's something that works. A good example for us has been Professor Adayonath, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2009. And as I said, the scale of excellence in science is, of course, very complex. Professor Adayonath worked at the Institute for 30 years on a topic. In October 2009, she was awarded in November, but in December, sorry, but the prize was announced in October. She was awarded a Nobel Prize. Now, that's easy. Once somebody is awarded a Nobel Prize, you know she's excellent. The question is, what happened 30 years before, or along the 30 years? Did we recognize her as an excellent scientist? Now, the world has a tendency to wait until you get, let's say, a prize, in this case, the Nobel Prize, it doesn't matter, to recognize you as an excellent scientist. But I want to remind you that one day before, she also was an excellent scientist. Now, the question is, do we wait until someone else recognizes that that person is an excellent scientist, or do we know that she was an excellent scientist for 30 years? And this is a major problem we're facing, because we rely too much on external people to tell us and to have these recognitions, to be able to, to see outstanding individuals. And the major problem we are facing as scientific institutions, universities, or whatever it is to be really able to recognize these people. And I have to admit, this is not an easy business. It's not, once he has a Nobel Prize, okay, we all know. Of course, we are right. The question is, how many times have we been wrong? Of misunderstanding people and not being able to recognize these individuals. Now, I want to make a point here. There are no tables, no numbers, no algorithm that will allow you to do that. It doesn't exist. It's only your experience and understanding of the world or the business you're running, in this case science, that allows you to recognize these outstanding individuals. And that's why I always say that the only way a scientific institution can be run, I'm sorry to say, is by a scientist. Because he or she is the only one who really understands what happened in the mind of these people. This is not a company producing something. This is a company running people. And to try to identify these outstanding individuals along the line, even though they've not produced anything for 10 years, and they've taken extremely highly risky path, and yet you have been able to support them, in my opinion, is the real sign of excellent institution. Hiring Nobel Prizes is easy. Producing them and giving them the freedom to think and the ability to work for years to achieve that is a very different business. And what we are, I would say, the Weizmann Institute trying to do is really to provide this platform. So we don't look at the short term. We try to analyze what people are doing, not because of what they do, but because of who they are. And we need to agree that if you put 10 people on the table and you ask them what is the most important scientific field of today, they all disagree. I have my own opinion. I think, for example, that star formation is the most interesting thing in the world. Now, you would think that energy research is more important. I disagree with you. I don't think it's right. That's my opinion. But if you ask me, who are the best scientists today at the Weizmann Institute, and you put 10 people on the table, you know what? You'll be amazed how easily we can agree. It doesn't matter what they do. We can easily agree on who these individuals are. They don't get a Nobel Prize. But we have a good idea, and that's because we don't work with a spreadsheet. We just try to understand what they're doing. And it's a little more deep than just a simple scale. So what makes an excellent scientist? In my mind, knowledge, curiosity, passion. Knowledge is important, but barely. And the reason is because, as you know, knowledge is today available everywhere. And those who know a lot, of course, are very good, but those who know too much are really problematic. Especially, as I always say, those who know they know. But those who know they know are really problematic. Curiosity is a huge drive behind excellence. There's no way you're going to do something new if you know a lot and are not curious. Because if you know a lot and have no curiosity, the only thing you can do is answer questions. If you have curiosity, you're going to take your knowledge into regions that are dangerous, minefields. And of course, passion, because this type of work is about failure. And if you can't allow to fail and you don't allow others to fail, it's not going to work. And the only way for you to allow failures is to be passionate about what you do. Look at that you're not trying to understand the structure of a simple molecule like ribosome for 30 years. This is a crazy work. If you wasn't passionate about it and you wouldn't observe this passion, you would never succeed. So these are 3 key points. Knowledge, as I said, widely available. Important, of course. If you take stupid people and provide them freedom, you get bushfire. So you have to have knowledgeable people, but still, don't push too much. Don't look at experts in the field that really know a lot and can provide answers to all questions. These are sometimes people who are too safe in their own knowledge. And clearly, again, knowledge is not as important. It's understanding, really, that makes. And it's curiosity and passion that are the fuel behind the transformations of knowledge into action. Curiosity. Now, curiosity is a very important part of ourselves. We are born with it. Every single individual, in fact, every single animal is born with curiosity. And the reason we are born with it is because it's part of evolution. It's part of Darwinism. If you look very carefully, the theory of evolution, if you read the text of Darwin, you'll find that he says, people believe that Darwin said that the strongest, the fittest will survive. That's not true. That's the wrong interpretation. The text says the species most likely to survive are not, in fact, the fittest, the strongest, or the most powerful. It is the species most prepared to change as the environment changes. Now, how do you prepare yourself to change as the environment changes if it's not through curiosity? Curiosity is what allows you to explore regions of the world that nobody else has seen, but one day will be your region. And so curiosity is a powerful instinct which we need if we want to survive, because it is part of evolution. The problem, of course, is when we go to school, the teacher is extremely good at explaining us that sometimes curiosity is not a good thing, actually most of the time. And so we lose curiosity too often at a young age. And I'm always asking myself, not that I have a good solution, how we can keep in our children this taste for curiosity without them, of course, doing stupid things, which is a problem. But still, I think we're living in a society where we don't allow people to be curious anymore. Actually, we find this to be too dangerous, and we want them to confine into a thinking which is just like inside the box. Curiosity is what allows you to think out of the box, and we need to have human beings very, very curious. So there is a problem here, which living in a society that everything has to be transparent and accountable for it, as you know, which is a major problem in my opinion. I'm not against accountability and transparency, but if this is your bottom line, then there's no curiosity anymore. And so we need to allow this, and I think we're facing a major problem in innovation if you don't open this. And passion is, in my opinion, is an emotion, which is, in fact, one of the best problem-solving tools. If you believe that knowledge is what solves problems, you're wrong. It's people who are passionate about a problem who can ultimately find the solutions. If the problem is solvable, then it's not interesting, of course. We're not talking about things that can be solved if you have the knowledge, the existing knowledge to prove it. I'm talking about problems that have no solutions as of today. And if you ask who are the people who are going to solve these problems, they're not the ones who know more. They're the ones who are passionate about it. And what you need to do is to find them. And that's going to be part of your excellent team, not the expert, the one who are passionate. Because the expert will tell you there's no solution. You know, one thing I never say to my students, I never say to them what is impossible. I always say to them what is possible, but I don't tell them what is impossible. And the reason is because I want them to be passionate in trying to solve it. The fact that I fail doesn't mean that they will fail as well. So, you know, experience is good, but there's a limit to it. So remember also that you can't light the fire of passion in someone else if it doesn't burn in you to begin with. This sentence relates to teachers. Teachers that teach just knowledge, are just doing their job. Teachers who are passionate about their knowledge will teach something very different to the kids. And that passion, if they can, you know, accumulate it, they can copy it, because this is not something you teach, but they can revert to it, they will really be able to have a major impact in their life. So let me finish by 4 sentences, just to remind you that excellence can be obtained if you care more than others think is wise, if you risk more than others think is safe, if you dream more than others think is practical, and if you expect more than others think is possible. Thank you very much.